From sunrise to sunset, all day and night. Power Radio.
All right, welcome back. That is Yule by Liboy. It's playing right here on Power Radio. This is the Power Morning Drive Show with me, Anne Wanyoike. And as promised, my guests are already in studio. I am super excited to have this conversations that matter. Today we are going to be focusing on mainstreaming youth voices in democracy and why it's so important to us to ensure that we create inclusive spaces for meaningful engagement and participation for young people in the process of democracy. And remember, you can get in touch with us on our social media handles. We are Power Radio across all socials. You can also find me on Twitter. Yes, I refuse to call it X because I can, at the Anne Wanyoike, and also on my Instagram at Wanjiko Wanyoike. Hit us up. Remember, you can also call in live, text us on 0748 379 231. I repeat that one more time. 0748 379 231. So to get the ball rolling. All right, let's get right into our conversation this morning. It's so good to have you with us this morning. Before any further ado, let me allow them to introduce themselves and then we can get right into our conversation. I start with the lady on my immediate left.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, we meet again.
Yes, we meet again.
We met at the Next Her Summit.
Yes. My name is Agnes Anyango.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a lover of democracy.
Yeah.
I'm a student, training advocate at the Kenya School of Law, and I'm glad to be here.
Thank you so much, Agnes, for making time to be here with us. To the gentleman.
Yeah, my name is Glenn Mwangi.
Yes.
I'm a youth advocate. Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you for making the time. And last but definitely not least.
My name's Regidi Dawero, and I am a very passionate activist. I talk all things politics.
Yeah.
It's a good morning to talk about democracy and politics in general.
Absolutely. It always is. Right. So all of you guys have in one way or the other been part of the Ajibika Leadership Program convened by the amazing Africa Youth Leadership Forum, that is AYLF. And so we will talk a little bit about your experience within this leadership cohort and what it has done in terms of shaping you guys as leaders individually before we can pivot the conversation into the democracy. So to just kind of get a feel of what that looks like, let me start with you, Agnes. How has your experience within the Ajibika Forum been like for you, and how has it shaped you as a leader?
It has been a fantastic experience. It has shaped me in a leader, not even as a leader to begin with, as a Kenyan.
Yeah.
In that the things that are my responsibility to do as far as democracy is concerned. Because I realized, I think one of my biggest takeaways when I was part of the program is that you can write a memoranda to your governor, to your MCA. You can always take responsibility. You can also be part of the town hall meetings when they ask for public participation on bills, which I think is very important.
Yeah.
You know, most of the time, people are like, we are against this bill, we are against this law, but you haven't necessarily voiced out your concern.
Yeah.
And you just go with the online wave or something without really understanding what the bill is all about.
Yes.
So for me, that was a very big takeaway.
Yeah.
As a leader, I think it's important for us to cooperate. Even if you'll end up in the public sector, private sector, student leadership, this is our country. And for it to work, for the systems to work, and for democracy to work, it has to work like oil, like a goodwill. So everyone has to do their part. So collaboration is key.
Right. Mr. Glenn, what has been your experience and what are some of the key takeaways from your participation within the Ajibika Leadership Program?
Yeah, I think one of my biggest takeaways has been understanding the power of the youth.
Right.
When it comes in, just putting in their voice, projecting their voice to making a change in how the leadership of the community and the society is happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, just moving from one community to the other has really youths are missing, and what the youths can be able to bring in as their input,
Yeah.
so as to be able to strengthen the leadership of the whole community.
Right.
Yeah, so that has been my biggest takeaway,
Yeah.
the power of the youth
Yeah.
in the leadership of the society. Yeah.
Awesome. What about you, Jadida?
I think my biggest takeaway from my my Imara program time was inclusion, because what Imara does is we as a fellows, we are sent to the different counties across Kenya. So for me particularly, I was in Meru, and it was, I think, one of the most memorable times,
Yeah.
because I got to understand how politics is,
Yeah.
and politics is shaped, especially in the rural areas, and just, and understanding how different it is from the urban setting. So I think that was my biggest takeaway, having to include people from the rural areas to, for them to understand they have a voice, and for them to understand how they can actually be able to just stand and voice their opinions out. Because I think it was during when the former governor was being impeached. So it was more or less of a volatile time, and the discussions were very, they were heated.
Yeah.
So getting to see youths actually participate, and voice themselves out was honestly a very great experience for me. So
Correct.
getting to include people, from all aspects of Kenya was quite eye-catching for me. Yeah.
Right. Awesome. So now that we have set the scene right, now we can pivot into our main discussion today, which is democracy. And I just want us to reflect a little bit about the state of democracy in this country. Where are we? Where should we go? And what needs to happen in between where we are and where we need to go? So let me start off with you, Agnes. Just truthfully, as it stands as it were, is democracy working for young people from your own assessment?
I wouldn't want to pick either extremes, like it's working, like a yes or no answer. But I want to believe that there's still room for improvement, a big room for improvement. I can say it has been working in some instances, because more and more young people, we are knowing about our rights. We are knowing that you can take your voter's card, that we are knowing about systems such as if you want to impeach your MCA, your governor. So there is that our civic duty, I think. We are becoming more and more aware of who we are. As regards to our leaders, because I think because our system is more or less a direct and indirect democracy, so we elect our MPs into parliament, and then they make laws for us, and they help us. With that regard, I think they have not been a very unique parliament, because it's more or less them and the executive are on the same side. So we haven't seen them do their job as far as checking checks and balances of the executive.
Yeah.
So I think it is working, but not very okay. Yeah.
Right. Let me come to you, Mr. Mwangi. And, we have this conversation. It's almost becoming a tired gag buzzword, tokenistic representation, tokenism, in youth representation. So as we talk about democratic inclusion of young people, as it stands right now at the decision-making table, the representation is rather tokenistic when it comes to young people. So one, how do we ensure that we move away from this tokenistic kind of representation of young people so that we can have their voices, not only, they're not in the rooms to just kind of as to tick a box, right? We want their voices to actually count for something, right? So how do we move away from tokenistic representation to actual meaningful engagement?
I think first, even before we map out the direction that we should take as a country when it comes to democracy with the youth, first we need to understand what democracy means. So democracy basically is defined as the rule of the people, by the people and for the people. Yeah, but if we are to maybe narrow down this definition, we'll say that democracy means the people power, because democracy comes from two words, which is demo and krasi. Demo is a Greek word which basically means the people. Krasi basically is pronounced as kratos in Greece, which basically means power. So when you're talking about democracy, we are talking about the people power. And if we come into the Kenyan context, we see that according to statistics, from KNBS, the youth are the majority. The age between 18 to 35 is approximately 20 million in Kenya. If we're talking about 35 years and below, we're talking about 75% of the whole country. So if we're talking about voter power, we're talking about generally the youth. So first thing, if we're looking at the current context of Kenya, the youth recently have been projecting their voices in very many ways. Different platforms on the streets. And the question that we should ask ourselves first is, are the voices of the youth being heard? And at this moment, we can say that based on what we can see, and it's obvious, the current state, it's that the voice of the youth is not really being heard. So I think the first strategic direction that we need to take as a nation, we as the youth, being the majority, is we need to have a dialogue. And the best dialogue that we can begin with is the Constitution. We need to go back to the Constitution to understand what the Constitution says about our power as the youth. So, and some of the changes that we really need to embrace as a country is to understand that as the youth, being the people who have the power, we need representation, specifically in the government, to begin with.
Yeah.
So that means that one of the issues that we should see as a strategic direction is to have more youth in the government. Personally, I believe that having 60% of the youth in the government is really important to begin with, so that we can be able to mention democracy to everyone.
Yeah.
Youth means democracy in Kenya, because democracy begins with the youth, since we have the power to be able to make that change that we want. So the strategic direction, more youth in the government, and we need to have a dialogue with the Constitution so that we can be able to have that impact that we desire.
Right. Jedida, you mentioned that you're an activist, and I would like to hear your, I guess, opinion or to get your opinion on the same. What are some of your biggest frustrations as it pertains to democracy with young people, and how we handle that conversation in Kenya?
Okay. I think I'll first of all start by answering the first question that you had posed on where are we on democracy as a country.
Sure.
Because I feel like as a country, we have evolved in terms of democracy, but in terms of leadership, we have...
Devolved.
That's the word.
De-evolved.
I can't even get the word, but I think we are all in the same boat. But yeah, in terms of leadership, we have seriously retrogressed, because if you look at how we have, or rather how leaders behave, right from personally the government that I found was Kibaki's government up to whatever we have right now.
Whatever we have, we
can actually question whether it's a government or it's a chama. Yeah. But I feel like the more our democracy evolves, the poorer our leadership becomes. So the biggest question is, how are we handling it? What are we doing in terms of this? And I really like how Glenn has put it in terms of Constitution, because I feel like what we do as a country is, because of the kind of leaders we have, we keep on the whole idea of thinking that simply because they come from our tribe, our place, they have that bargaining power on us. And therefore, if they keep on telling us, you don't have to read the Constitution, tumesoma kwa niaba yenyu. And, that sort of makes us become, we don't progress, because the moment we do not accept that Constitution is what we need to move forward, we lose the whole thing. Yeah, so from my end, I think I am really frustrated as a youth.
Right.
Because if you talk about education, if you talk about health, transport, I mean, there are some things that are working, but majority of the things are not working. And that is why we keep on advocating for things to actually work, because we know and we understand the potential of this country. We have seen it work. So why not? And that is why we keep on advocating, whether it is in the very small ways online, Gen Z protest, in whatever way, we are really trying our best, because we know and understand the potential of this country. Yeah.
Correct. You've talked about the Gen Z protests, and now 2024 came, we went out to the streets, whatever happened. Same script come to June 2025, went out to the streets, protested, but I guess month in or almost a year and a half later, we're still dealing with systemic issues. I mean, it was great. It was amazing to see young people going out to the streets and protesting for what was rightfully theirs. But there is definitely a danger in not having mechanisms for sustaining the momentum. So as we encourage people to go out to the streets, yes, how do we ensure that even at the boardroom level, policies, kind of creating that mechanism? I'm saying that, how do we ensure, I guess my question is, how do we ensure that we are not wasting our experiences, that when we go out to the street, it's great, but it's not a wasted experience, because we know how to translate it into structural mechanisms and to sustain that momentum. How do we go about that?
Okay.
Yeah.
To begin with, I think one of my colleagues has mentioned that we have to start with the Constitution.
Yes.
And also in the Constitution, in the Bill of Rights, that is what gives youth the power to go and protest, as long as it is peaceful and it is unarmed. So that is the starting point. When people were planning the 2024 protests, also the Gen Z protests, to be specific, not the other political protests.
Yeah.
I think the youth went because they knew this is not happening. We're being taxed on things that are not essential. So that is why we have the liberty to go to the streets and protest. As regards to keeping momentum, I am personally very optimistic, because in the history of our country, it's only the protest in 2024 that made the president to dissent a whole bill. So that is a good starting point. That means, number one, that people are aware of our rights. So there is, I always say there is always a place for everyone. Because even if you look at the protests, not everyone was able to go to the street. There's people who are doing protesting online. There's also people who are protesting for their rights in the workplace, people, women against discrimination and all that.
Yeah.
So everyone has a role to play. And once you take that role actively, I believe we can have the momentum. You see when they say, oh, Gen Zs, we are leaderless, tribeless. I think now we have to think more long term.
Yeah.
And because I think the other system of they said earlier, retrogressive leadership.
Yeah.
They're able to be there because they have a plan and a long-term plan, and they're able to use our tribal identity as a bargaining power. So how then can we form a team that is able to compete against that and be like, it doesn't matter whichever part of the country you come from, and we are going to elect you if you have a proof of good leadership and proof that you're going to sort of bring change in the country. So there is, I'm very optimistic. And I can see there are more and more youth leaders coming, and we will definitely have, I think 2027 will be a good bet for us. It won't be just landslide or like the other previous elections for the youth.
Yeah.
Yes.
We will be here. We would hope. We would hope.
It's only next year.
Yeah, it's only next year. Yeah. Let me build up on a point that you've brought up, which is identity politics, right?
Yeah.
Which is the playground of politicians, tribalism and all those things, As it pertains to this conversation of democracy, how do you think identity politics have continuously undermined our democratic process, and how can young people really shift away from those kind of narratives, because they're not serving us, right, as young people?
Yes.
Yeah.
To begin with, I believe it's important to your tribe is who you are as a person. I cannot change which place I'm coming from or which place of the country I was born. Okay, so that's number one, because it sort of gives me the diversity to belong to this very wonderful nation that we call Kenya. As far as politics is concerned, we have seen, if you look at the protest, it wasn't youth of a specific place that were on the streets or people who are frustrated. So number one, that means that whoever you are, if you're on the top seat and you're not doing your job, everyone is going to suffer, because the government is for everyone. Democracy creates a system where the majority wins and the minority, they try next time, right?
Yeah.
So then that means the majority, if they make policies, then even if you didn't vote for them, even if you voted for them, you're still going to suffer for their lack of ineffective policies or something. And it's important. I like it. I like how the Gen Z, we planned the last year's protest, because it wasn't because you're from this side of the country. No, it was we are tired. SHA is not working. The help is not working. It's so hard for a young person to get a job. Like, you have to have connections. It's like they're gatekeeping everything.
Right.
So it's more of like a class issue, and we have to stay back away from that. It's not about identity. Your identity is like, it makes you, but it shouldn't be a basis for you putting someone into power or electing a certain leader into a political position.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah. And I kind of like the spin-off that happened with hashtag we are all Kikuyus. I don't know whether you remember that. It was such a reclamation of, okay, so you guys want to polarize us with our tribes, we are going to show you. And it was such a beautiful thing. So even as we talk about, the hashtags that came from the protest, like Tuko Wengi, Sirini Numbers, we are all Kikuyus, there is power there in first, digital democracy, to just loosely use us as a term. But reading more into that, it's the conversation about young people being empowered enough to know the power of their voices, and not only know it, but also own it, right? So, but there's also conversations that I have with young people, and they do not know that they actually have this power. They do not know that they can own their voices. So even as we talk about young people's ownership of their voices, Glenn, let me come to you. First of all, how do we ensure that they know how to identify the power that they have, the power of their voices, and how do young people own their voices, even as we talk about engaging in political discourses, democratic discourses, and any other space that young people should be in?
Yeah, so one of the things that really matters when it comes to ensuring that now the youth now understand what roles they have to play is changing the mentality of the youth. And that is where programs such as AYLF come in.
Yes.
Yeah. So for example, let me just give an example. If you look at one of the biggest plague that emanates from corruption in Kenya, is that you find that during campaigns, most leaders get elected based on the amount of money that they can be able to pour to the masses, to the people. So this creates a problem, because once a leader gets into power, it's kind of like he invested his money into the people. So he needs to have a return on investment. So the people who vote, who are the youth who are the people who vote, really have a problem when they choose their leaders. Because leaders bring money. When they get into power, they need to get their money back. The question that we need to ask ourselves as youths to begin with is, what do you expect of a leader who has poured money onto you to do when he gets into power? Tatoa pio pesa. He needs to go back. What he will do actually, he will either engage in corruption, and that is where he's going to be stealing your money, and you will not see any development. So taking the gospel to the youth in the machinanis, because you find that the youths who are most vulnerable to such kind of politicians are the ones who are in the villages, those in the ghettos. They do not have an understanding of what kind of leaders they want. They may shout and do everything. So we as young people, what we basically are striving to do, we as young leaders, is to now go to those people in the machinanis and try and educate them on the power that they have when it comes to understanding the constitution, and also so that once we get into the ballot, they can be able now to bring in their votes and choose the best leaders.
Yeah.
One advice I would give to the young people out there is that you see that young leader in your village who does not have a lot of money, that young leader, that is one of the best choices that you can be able to start with when it comes to choosing your leaders. Because one thing, he does not have anything to lose. He does not have anything to lose once he gets into power when it comes to returning on investment. That makes him to be a compromise-free leader. And what Kenya needs right now is compromise-free leaders. Because once a leader is compromised, the leader is done. Once a leader is compromised, he cannot be able to fight corruption. And once a leader is in corruption, he cannot be able to fight corruption because he's part of it.
Right.
And that is what we are currently seeing with our leaders. See that a leader is mentioning, I saw corruption here, I saw corruption here. You know, if you have been watching the news, you can see that even the president some time back mentioned that, you know, some people are corrupt here and there. But you see, as a leader of the country, you need to have, you have the power actually to fish out corruption from where it is. But you see, as a leader, one thing that Kenyans should understand is that if a leader cannot be able to fish out corruption, then that means it's part of corruption. And the youth need to really understand and get educated on matters to do with, understanding their voter power so that they can understand who is a corrupt leader, even beginning from the point of campaign. Yeah.
Right. Jadida, part of reimagining democracy is political education, is civic education. I mean, well, civic education has been a very cute concept. Now people want more. Yeah. Wow, people want more. There's a shift. There's a move away from civic education to political education, and I think it's a very important. Tenet of ensuring that we open up the discussion in the spaces for democracy. So, talk to us a little bit about why it's so important for us to continuously have programs that cater to political education, especially among the young people, and creating comprehensive I think creating an understanding of what it actually means, because there's something that gets lost in the way when we are having discussions about what it pertains for young people to be included in democracy. Yeah, so how do we do that?
That's quite interesting. But let me first of all just drop something on identity politics, because I feel like it's something that those are the kind of cards that politicians repeatedly play on us. And I think in our naivety and in our mtu wetu eras, we sort of buy the cards. So if you're very keen during the Gen Z protests, there was this emergence of a very subtle but, a very noisy and loud word by politicians, and they kept on saying that Gen Zs are going to protest, eating KFC in Ubers and
taking selfies on
their
iPhones.
On their iPhones.
Yeah. I wish I had one.
I wish you were going in Ubers,
Right?
all of us.
Right?
I mean, people
To
who are
afford
walking from
KFC?
Thika to town.
Bold of
So
you to assume.
anyways,
Yeah.
we digress.
Yes.
So I think in a very subtle way,
Yeah.
you can see and understand that they are now understanding that tribe is not a card that we really want to play.
Correct.
So what propaganda, what agenda can
Yeah.
they sell to us?
Yeah.
And that is why they want to seriously infuse in us
Yeah.
that social class sort of
Yeah.
card. And even
Elitism.
now,
Yeah.
you can just, in a very subtle way, you can feel how much they are selling that agenda.
Yeah.
You know, in as much as, you know, your youths, there are those youths in the urban area, there are youths in the rural areas. You know, at the end of the day, you all are not equal, which is true. But at the end of the day, we are all in Kenya. So
Yeah.
the reality is the same.
Yeah.
If I buy sugar at this price in Nairobi, the person in Chemelil or Kisumu will certainly buy at almost the same price.
Yeah.
So I think it also calls on us, we as the voters and we as the citizens, on, you know, our agility. How are we going to buy this? How ready are we for the 2027 elections, for the propaganda that they're going to sell, for the cards that they want to use on us? What is their bargaining power? I think that is very important for us to understand, which takes us now to the civic education or the political education. For that, I might have a lot to say, but
Sure thing. That's why you're here.
but just to start on, I think our education is the biggest problem, I would say. And as a person who is working in the education sector,
Yeah.
I think our education has been lacking since the inception of this country, because every generation has been having a different kind of information passed down to them.
Yeah.
If you look at whomever we consider the boomers, you know, they had a different idea of what liberation or independence looked like, which now shapes how they look at democracy or even leadership and politics in general.
Yeah.
When you look at the immediate generation that comes after that, there's also a way in which they were shaped, you know, maziwa ya nyayo and all those things. You know, and this shapes how they actually understand and how they relate to politics. When it gets to the millennials, whom we are sort of very hard on as the Gen Z, but is with love.
Please.
Yeah, with love.
You are talking to one, so you better tread
sorry.
carefully.
But you get the
Kidding.
point.
I do. I get it.
Yeah,
I get it.
if you look at the kind of education, because for them, I think it was more of a transition. And, you know, from the Moi to the Kibaki era, things were changing. You know, you were having free education and all those things. That shaped how they understood politics. And now to us as the Gen Zs,
Yeah.
there's also a way in which we understand, or rather education shaped our understanding. For us, I think we are more of a liberal generation because, you know, our teachers were able to break down to us. And for us, we found, you know, that you millennials had already set up this space for us. And, you know, we took and ran away with it. And this, therefore, makes me question, you know, what are we doing as the Gen Zs for Gen Alpha?
Right.
Because democracy and freedom and independence is all a generational thing. It's not a one-time thing.
Yeah.
You know, as Wangari Maathai said, freedom is something that you fight for. And once you get it, you continue fighting for it in order to safeguard it. It's not something that, you know, you just find one day and then you're like, oh, my problems are over. No, it's something you continuously fight for it. So I think we should start asking ourselves, what are we doing for the next generation? You know, mikakati gani, tumetenga nini?
Tumetenga nini?
Tumetenga nini for them to come and, you know,
Find
move
something
on.
to work with. Yeah.
Yeah, but generally, I feel like our education is lacking in terms of civic and political education. Because if I was to even personally say, as a person who has done history and even political science in my undergrad,
Yeah.
I think it was more of a whitewashed education because you'll find even, you know, just from the quoting, from how we would write our thesis, it was more of a, you know, a European idea.
Right.
Like for you to sound, you know, learned or you have to quote Albert, I don't know, Einstein, you have to quote Aristotle.
Yeah.
But why aren't we quoting our own people?
Yeah.
Because this shapes how we see ourselves and how we see our politics. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, maybe what we need is a miseducation and not an education. Lauryn Hill has a whole album about that. Maybe Gen Zs might not know who Lauryn Hill. You do? Oh, great, fantastic. All right, let me just look at some of the comments and feedback that we are getting. Shout out to Vincent Madenge. I think you all know him. He's saying that great delivery, Agnes, as usual. Was lucky to have crossed paths with you, and to the whole panel, appreciation and kudos. So my fans wanna tune in hapo. But I want us to stick on to that conversation about dialogues, right? And the Right Honorable Raila Odinga some weeks ago came out and said that, we need to set up an intergenerational dialogue conclave, right? This is something that really did not sit very well with a lot of Kenyans and most especially young people, because they were saying, what do you mean? We've been having conversations. What are we bonging? We've been if it is if it is bonging, we've been bonging. So, again, another cosmetic move that looks very glossed over, but where is the impact? I mean, do we need another intergenerational
dialogue
conclave?
for what?
For what?
If everyone, like we elected you, let everyone do their job. I think that's the simplest thing to put it.
Yeah.
Because if they say dialogue, the youth who are going to be chosen are going to be specific youth and not, I feel, they will not going to be a very good representation of everyone. So even in that table that they say a conclave or whatever they call it, it's going to be excluded.
Yeah.
So there's no need for dialogue. I think that's just a way to waste the taxpayers' money. The best thing they can do, let everyone do their job. I mean, right now, look at the billions Shai is losing. Look at how many people are being left out of hospitals. Like, healthcare in this country is a mess.
Is in shambles.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Even education, help, like there's so much confusion for a country that brags itself as being the most democratic in East Africa.
Yeah.
I think
It's questionable.
It's very questionable. Yeah. What are we bonging, Glenn?
I think personally that we have tried dialogue, of course, with the government, and it has failed. It's obvious. See, what some people are confusing with, when you see people on the streets, most people confuse them as, they like using the word Gen Z to these people.
Yeah.
But they need to understand, amongst those people who have been on the streets, are millennials also. Generally, if you were to say, who are the people who have been on the streets? It is Kenyans. It is not Gen Zs. It is not millennials. It is not Kikuyu. In fact, what I like about the youth is that they are tribeless. And that is democracy.
Yeah.
If we are to talk about democracy, that is democracy. And basically what the youth are asking for is uncompromised leaders. Having uncompromised leaders is democracy. So the time for dialogue, I think, is over. And as I mentioned earlier, I think the only dialogue that the youth can be able to use and that the government can understand is the dialogue of the Constitution.
Yeah.
And that means ensuring that every person who has a votal power understands what kind of leader they deserve to elect. And that means that we need to educate the youth more. We need to educate, and we need to build leaders more from the youth, uncompromised leaders, so that we can be able to come the next general elections. We can be able to start having the change that we need. But dialogue has failed. Now it's dialogue with the Constitution, using the voters' power.
Right. Yeah. Jadida, what are we bonging? Do we really need another conclave, really?
I don't think so. Because I feel like the more we keep on giving these people spaces and platforms, the more they have the cards to divert the attention of Kenyans, and they can be able to sell their agenda or propaganda or whatever they have to sell to us. Because we have had several dialogues. It's not one, it's not even 10, or there have been so many dialogues. So what is uniquely different about this one? What is different? What is new? Because if you look at the kind of things that keep on going on in this country, they're the same things. Whether it is corruption today in health, tomorrow it is in education. Whether it is insecurity, it is insecurity in Garissa, tomorrow it's in Mandera.
Yeah.
So what is uniquely different about this dialogue?
Yeah.
I think those are the kind of things they should tell us before you even think of talking about anything dialogue. Because as all factors constant, we are not bonging.
Right.
Nothing.
Tumekata kubonga.
Atubongi.
All right. It's coming now to almost 20 minutes to the top of the hour. It's a good place to take a break right now. When we come back, we will get into the new IEBC voter registration rollout. What does that portend? Yeah, democracy is not just, citizens are not just voters, but we need to talk a little bit about that youth apathy and the radical shift that might look like for young people being the biggest voter base for 2027. So let's come back and talk a little bit about that on the show after this short musical break. We'll be right back. Do not